Hello and welcome to this video. In this video we're going to be talking about, have you left your tax return to the very last moment? Well, if you have, don't worry, this is the ultimate guide to making sure that you get your tax return filed and, more importantly, don't get a penalty. So if you've got only a few days left to get your tax return in, or if at any point you just want to get that tax return done, then make sure you get involved in this particular guide. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Aaron Patrick. I'm a chartered accountant, certified UK trainer with a fancy new logo, that QuickBooks Chap on the internet, and also head of accounts here at Boffix. Now in this video, I'm actually going to go ahead and go and file a tax return straight from scratch, and you're going to come along with me. And as I do that, I'm going to give you some tips, tricks, and make sure that you're in the right place to be able to make sure that you can get your tax return filed. What we don't want to do is anyone to be late at filing a tax return, get some unnecessary penalties, especially when you look at it, filing a tax return isn't actually that bad. And we're going to go through some tips and tricks to make sure that we get it as comfortable as you possibly can, get that tax return done. So join me as I go straight into it and let's get that tax return filed. Okay then, so in front of me, gov.uk, this is going to be the place where you're going to find it. Now, there's a nice little search bar just here, and with this search bar, all I'm going to do is put self-assessment into there. Even then, I didn't even spell it right, and it looks like it's found the right place. So I can go straight into file your self-assessment return online. From here, it's going to go in and it's going to give you information that you need. Now, you do need a government gateway, ID and password. If you don't have that already, don't worry, we still can get yourself applied, but there is going to be a time frame on that. You'll also need some information to get that government gateway filed in the first place. So don't delay. This is the bit where you need to be making sure you do as soon as possible and make sure that you've got that gateway, because the gateway itself could, and the code to activate it will come via post. And you don't want to leave it too long to be able to get that done. All right, thankfully though, if I press start now, I already have a gateway ready and waiting. Now, just like any old service these days, got two-factor authentication. So let me get myself connected to that. Okay, so now I've got myself signed into my personal tax account at the top here. What I can do now is I can use this self-assessment area just there. From here, your deadline for returns is 31st of January 2023. View and manage your self-assessment tax return. Let's have a look. Now, what this is great for is this is going to let you know, first of all, if you have a tax return to do. Second of all, how long you've got until that needs to be completed. One thing I'd always recommend you do is always keep an eye on this, because this is going to be the best way for you to know that if that tax return is actually due or not. For me, I've got 10 days left until mine is due, 31st of January 2023. So complete self-assessment return 2021 to 2022. This next page is basically going to give you some details of what it is you should be thinking about bringing in. Employment income, so you're going to need P60s or your final payslip for that one. Self-employment income, for that we would recommend something like QuickBooks Online to give you the details you need to put that information in. Partnership income, if that's relevant. And UK property income, again, something like QuickBooks or Hammock would be what we'd recommend to get that information in. The rest of these as well are available to put in. Now, for you to get started, you can use the Start Now button just here. And the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to find information which they've already hold. See, HMRC have actually started to get really, really clever. And any information they already hold, well, they're going to have that presented for you here. That means that any of your employment income, in theory, should come through. Now, it's been a little bit hit and miss this year. We've done lots and lots and lots and lots of returns. And I would say probably about 60 to 80% of them, the information's been there and been correct and been perfect. But every so often, there's been a little bit of an issue with the data that HMRC holds. Now, that's for various reasons. Maybe your employer or the person who raised that P60 for you hasn't quite got everything set up correctly. So in that case, you may have found that even though you're entitled for that income and that income should be shown, it's not quite been put through to HMRC. If that's the case, you still want to be filing what you suspect is correct, what you got the P60 for. And then if HMRC does come back to you with any kind of questions or disagreements with it, at that point you can sort it out. But ultimately, your responsibility is to make sure that you're declaring all of the income that you've received. So if you've received income P60 and it's not appearing on here, you still need to be making sure you're putting that information into QuickBooks. Okay, at this point I can see I've viewed it and I can press next. And then it's going to ask me some information. And really on this page, you just need to make sure this information is correct and just go through and make sure there's yes or no to these ones. Save and continue. Okay, so now we're coming to the most important part of the return, and that's going to be your tailoring. What you need to do is go through each one of these step by step and see if there's something that you should be worried about. So for example, were your employer a director? So basically, did you get a pay slip through the period? You should be able to say yes or no to that one. At that point, you'll need a P60 when you come to it. We turn over more than £1,000. Now we talk about a lot in this channel about how £1,000 is that critical amount of that turnover that you've had. So this isn't going to be the profit you've made. So this isn't less any cost you've had. This is that top line, the turnover, the amount you've sold either your services or your goods in any given tax year. If it's above £1,000, at that point you need to be making sure it's included on your tax return. That's what this question is saying. So if it's a yes, then you need to say how many self-employed businesses you've had, and you'll be doing each one individually. Now, how are you going to get that information? Well, that's going to come straight from QuickBooks. Grab the information, put it straight in. How many self-employed businesses have you got? You put a name on it. If you've got a partnership, so you're in partnership with someone, yes or no. The one way you're going to know if you're in partnership is you will actually have a partnership tax return to complete. That's when you know if it's a yes or no to that one. UK land or property over £1,000. Are you actually having rental income? Now, this one can be really tricky, and this is where a lot of people miss the opportunity to put this information in. Or this is the time when most people actually have to do a tax return for the first time. There's a phrase at the moment called accidental landlords, and that's the idea that you've been inherited maybe, or somehow you've got your second property, you weren't able to sell it and you're renting it out instead. Either way, if you are receiving rental income, you need to be considering if you should be putting a yes against that box there. If you are going to put a yes there, for me, best thing to do, again, use either QuickBooks or software called Hammock. That's going to give you all the information you need to be able to know what to put in and where. Do you have any foreign income? Yes or no to that one. And have any capital gains? Have you sold stocks and shares? Have you sold any crypto in the year? Or have you sold a second property? Any of those say yes to, then at that point, you're going to need to be making sure that you say yes to capital gains. The next area is, did you receive any interest? Yes or no. So bank interest, do you need to include that? Yes or no. Did you have any dividends? Yes or no. Now, if you are a owner of a limited company, chances are you've taken dividends throughout the year, and this is where you need to declare them to pay any taxes that may be due on them. Did you have any UK pensions during the time or state benefits? Yes or no. Did you or your partner have any child tax benefits during that period, especially if any of you is over 50,000? Did you incorrectly claim any coronavirus support payments? Did you take some of the self-employed income support scheme by accident? Should you not have taken them? That's where you get to say yes or no there. Any un-UK income? Have you made any income tax losses during the period? And were you allowed to pension saving tax charges? So have you invested too much into a pension scheme, therefore you need to say yes to that one. Now, the reason this area is so important is because it's going to tailor the rest of your experience. Did you make any contribution towards a personal pension or retirement? Yes or no. Did you give to charity? Yes or no. If you or your child or partner were born on 1935, do you want to claim married couples allowance, 10% of your personal allowance? Do you want to claim other tax relief deductions, for example, community investment tax relief, venture capital trust, maintenance? They do, on each one of these, give you a really handy section here. It's going to give you a bit more information. Do you have any 2010-22 income tax refund or set off by Job Centre Plus? Do you have a tax advisor? Yes or no. Have you used one or more of the tax avoidance schemes, or are you acting in capacity of someone else? So continue. And at this point then, because you've tailored your return and said to HMRC what you're expected to have on there, the rest of it is all going to be based on what your choices you made. If you ever need to go back, then do make sure that you go back to tailoring your return on the right hand side. This here is a bit of a step-by-step guide for you where you can go through all the way to submitting your return and how to make payment to it as well. The information there, it's also going to tell you what's been entered and what hasn't. So you've already tailored your return. You can go back to them at this point if you need to. And then it's going to say what information it needs. Well, you've got, in my case, ACCOUNTANCY Limited. Now the information's already there, but if I enter income, I can then make an adjustment if I need to. And then you can go through answering the rest of the questions as well. Were you a director of the company? Yes or no. If you ceased, you need to put the information in there. Any working arrangement? Have you received taxable benefits? So this is P11D. So have you got a company car, or have you got some sort of medical insurance through that company? That's when you'll say yes there. And do you want to claim any expenses? Common one at the moment while you still have the chance, use of home, you might want to see if you can claim that there. Save and continue. And then if you have ticked self-employed, this is what this area looks like. Again, this is where QuickBooks can be really useful. You see, the information it's going to ask for you, if I was to log into a QuickBooks account now, when you've got QuickBooks open, first of all, let's make sure you've got it set up. So company cog, account and settings, and then your company type here, make sure this says sole proprietor just there. If it says that, then what this unlocks for you is on the left-hand side under taxes, you have the option for income tax just here. Clicking on income tax, clicking on the year that you need to do it, got it, means it's going to give you all the information as I scroll down to what you're going to need to include in all the boxes for you. Obviously, make sure QuickBooks is all set up for you. We've done plenty of content on that before. And if you need more content on QuickBooks itself, do head over to my other channel, Aaron Patrick, the QuickBooks Chap, and you should have all the information you need to make sure this is exactly spot on, ready to put in your tax return. So you're going to say yes or no, and then you have to fill in these questions. Are you a foster care? Have you got in profits for class 4? I'm a farmer. Basically, just read each one of these and see if they are going to be useful for you. Then you have to put dates in to make sure that you've got the dates in correctly. If you ceased during the period. Then you can say when your dates of your books are made up to. Recommendation from our point of view, 31st of March 2022. Or if you are using QuickBooks, it does default automatically for you to the 5th of April. So this here, 21st to the 22nd. Did you use cash basis, yes or no? Again, read it there. Most of us would say yes to that. It would be very nice, simple, self-employed. If you're more complicated, you probably want to say no to it. Turnover-wise, again, this is where QuickBooks is going to help you massively, because just here, there's your business income. There's the turnover figures for you to put in there. So you can put those straight in. And then from an expenditure, you can either choose a single total value or a detailed breakdown. Great. Again, if you choose single detailed breakdown, well, that breakdown's already done for you just here. So it's going to make it nice and straightforward for you. Once you've done that, it's going to ask you about annual investment and capital charges. So any large items, and you want to be dealing with them here. You don't want them to be capital. You don't want them to be expenses in your trading. You want to be making the most of them, especially something like an annual investment allowance. Go from there. You need more help on what capital allowances are and everything else. We've done a dedicated video on it. Once you've answered all the questions out and you got right to the end, then your tax return is ready to go and check your return. So you're going to be able to then go through, have all the information that's there. It's going to tell you if there's errors or not. And that means you've got to jump in there and maybe answer a question or need to go through. In my case, I didn't do my class 4 NICs. I go in here and I can say, yeah, I was actually, which one of these apply? None of them. I can go next error, and then I can fill mine in as well. So do I want to put, yeah, why not? And put that information through from there. Then it's going to ask for, in my case, my property income. Again, QuickBooks can be really useful for you. If you're utilising QuickBooks to do it, you can use this area here. Or if you're using our friends over Hammer, they make it even easier because they break down for you exactly which one you want to do. But basically, you need to be making sure that you can figure out what the income of is and what any expenses that you can claim for as well. And then once you've put that information in, got to the end, save and continue. It's going to tell you a nice little breakdown of what you've put in there, so you can see your rental income, your expenses, any adjustments. Save and continue. And finally, it's going to ask you, in my case, what dividends I've had as well. Have you had any unpaid tax? So have a look at your tax codes. You tell HMRC got any other debts to include. And then in my case, it's asking me my tax advisor as well. Highly recommend you putting that in there if that's the case. And then once you've completed everything and you've got entered in every one of these, so this works as a nice little checklist for you. At that point, you can just press next at the bottom. From here, it's going to give you a nice little summary. There's my consultancy income, my business income, my expense, what the profit and loss is going to be. Save and continue. And then finally, it's going to say check your return. And then in this bit, it's going to go over some of the bits. So it's going to give you your tax dates there. It's going to give you information saying what you said. So you said you're not a partnership. You did not receive any income. You had no other earnings. Say everything that's there. Press next. And now it's going to give you that all-important tax calculation. So from here, it's going to tell you how much you need to pay as at the end of the tax year. And it's going to give you an indication of what your first payment on account is going to be. Now, payment account is the bit that people get most confused about. Effectively, if your tax bill is over £1,000, then you need to start paying for next year's tax payment as well. Now, if that sounds all so confusing, we did, again, a whole video on it. Make sure we get a link there to what payment accounts mean. But effectively, what that means is you're not just paying for this year's tax, but you're having to pay half for next year's as well. And then you're going to pay another half in July. But that does mean back in next January, you've already paid a quite significant amount of your tax ready for that year. It's a bit of a nightmare. It is a bit of a catch up, but once you're in the system, you'll find it's a lot more cost effective for you. And actually, you'll probably find that you'll be able to have more consistent tax payments than having those lumpy ones that keep hitting you. So in this case, then, it's the first time I've had a payment account. So I've got not only 3,600 to pay, but I've also got 1,800. If I paid this January and then next July, then effectively what that means is next year, £3,600 will already have been paid for my tax bill. I'll only then have to pay the difference and then my next payment account for next year. Then tells me exactly what payment account is and then when my next payment will be due, which in this case will be 31st July. So you can continue. Then you get a chance to reduce. If this is just a big bonkers year and you're never going to have this sort of income again, you do have the option to reduce that payment account. Just heed my warning a little bit though, if you do reduce that. The problem about reducing it is then you've got maybe potential interest to pay on anything that's late. So just be a little bit careful on that one. I'm going to say no to that one and pay my payment account. At this point then you get the opportunity to take copies of it. So do you want a colour return, view the PDF, and you can keep them as well. You can even add attachment or view attachments you're going to bring on. Save and continue. Then you get a declaration, final declaration, and then finally you get the button to submit just there. Now, back on the calculation area, there is actually a view and print your full calculation. So if you want to know exactly where that calculation came from, then in example here, I've got my employment income, my self-employed, my rental income, my dividends, all receiving one amount, less my personal allowance. My total income is due here. Then it's going to go through and it's going to show me how that was all broken down right to the very bottom. And that's where my payment account brings into play. You can even print that full calculation if you ever need to look at it in any more detail. And then once you go and press that submit button, you are done. And that's it. Tax return done for another year. Nothing to worry about other than, well, paying that tax payment. Now, to pay the tax payment, paying your tax bill is really straightforward. Once you've submitted, make sure you go back into your tax area, your tax self-assessment area. And from there, you'll be able to make the payment directly from there. We've done also videos on that if you need to. And that is it. That is how you're going to get your tax return filed before the end of the year. Now, if you have any issues with this whatsoever, don't forget we are fully qualified accountants run by the ICAW. So we've encountered many tax returns in the past and we can make sure that your tax returns are done. Now, we can do all sorts for you. We can either do the whole thing from start to finish, basically what you've just seen there. We can do all that for you, or we can actually check your tax return before you press submit. And that is one of the most attractive options a lot of our clients do like. They still want to commit their own tax return. They just want an expert to go through and make sure that it's okay before you submit. Now, if you are looking for us to do an MOT, as we call it, your tax return, head over to our e-store. On there, you're going to have all the information you want. We've got links all over around. And if you want to know more about us being your accountant, then please do use the contact form button and be able to make sure that you book a meeting with us, and we'll make sure that you're getting the best possible service. And there you are. Good luck. Hopefully, fingers crossed, each and every one get your tax return completed in on time. What we don't want is any of those pesky penalties. So let's make sure you get your tax return completed on time. My name's been Aaron Patrick. This video has been an absolute pleasure to do for you. Fingers crossed you got your tax return completed. If not, reach out to us. And if you've got any comments below about anything else that's not looking quite right, then put the comments in. Let everyone else know. And if you've got any hints and tips on how you keep your tax return doing, please let us know below, because that sounds like a future video to me. Again, my name's been Aaron Patrick. This video has been an absolute pleasure, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.